Hey guys, what's up? This is Ian. Hope you're doing well. This is going to be part 2 of my series of creating creatures in the Spore Creature Creator. In my last video, I briefly went over the creature creation process. In this one, I would like to go over how to make a creature a little more in depth. If you're new to my channel, feel free to watch part 1 when I go over some concepting tools you can use when designing in Spore to make a realistic creature. So now, let's make creature number 2. A big part of world building is cohesion. Making multiple creatures look like they belong in the same existing world can be challenging, but also very fun. You can do this by using reoccurring visual themes, things like colors, textures, and shapes. Last video, we made a giant bird-inspired predator shown here. I like to keep some of these visual themes in mind when designing my new creature to make sure they seem like they could cohabitate an alien world together. Even though on Earth, this isn't always true. Some animals on our planet are polar extremes of one another, and you'd be hard-pressed to believe they share the same planet at all. To me though, it's important when designing my fictitious world to bank more on this cohesion idea. Seeing as the stuff we're designing is already pretty far out there, going to an extreme for every creature can leave your world overstimulating or unfamiliar to your audience, making it hard to suspend disbelief. But again, it's your planet, so do as you please if you're drawing along. With that in mind, let's follow the flowchart from the first video. This time, I wanted to make a more out there creature. Our first design, though strange, was still relatively familiar, a large avian or theropod-like animal that stalked its prey in tall grasslands. Following the predator motif, I wanted to make something that slithered and moved around almost undetected, that ambushed its prey from a riverbank or body of water. Taking that into account, let's look up some reference. I recently watched a video on a beached mako shark and liked its aggressive head and body shape. I thought, what would it be like if this creature was some type of shark or powerful marine predator, but on land? How could we cross both these seemingly opposite evolutionary landscapes and make a believable creature? I then looked up more interesting marine animals, things that gave off quick and aggressive auras. I talked about this in my last video, combining 2 or more sometimes opposite creatures together to create an interesting novel idea. Seeing as I decided on a marine-inspired creature, I thought it'd be interesting to make the other half insect-like in appearance. When a design like this gets a little too weird like I spoke about earlier, I often run into the same fun problem of making something strange into a believable idea. I'll show a diagram here to better help me explain it. Imagine this as a sliding scale with a more, in this case, marine-like creature on this side and something more alien and insect-like on the other. I try to visually think about where I want my creature to be on the scale, and this time I want it right in the middle. We'll get back to this later. Once you have a more initial render or concept, it's easier to add or subtract pieces from each side of the scale. Here's the creature creator. This video will be a good example of how far a concept can move from one phase to the next, especially using Spore. Again, like I said, Spore is a great tool to come up with ideas, not a completely finished render or design. You can see I was going for something with small to no eyes. This is a good way to show your creature's prime directive is to hunt and kill things. A large mouth with no eyes is usually a good indicator that your creature is almost primal in nature and only seeks food. Here's a few pop culture references where eyeless creatures are portrayed as unfeeling monsters. They can even be seen in the newest trailer for Metroid. An interesting part of concepting alien creatures is adding things such as whatever the structure is on this creature's back. Seeing as it's alien can rationalize any type of design choice when it comes to creatures' overall silhouettes and body structures. On the contrary though, a believable creature that is ambushing its prey would not historically, at least on Earth, have a cumbersome protrusion weighing it down. It's important to remember these types of things and be cognizant of them when designing. Just because you can doesn't always mean you should is a great saying to remember when working. You can see how, like I said in my last video, changing just one thing, such as eyes, can give off a vastly different feel to your creature's overall demeanor. So this is the finished design. As you can see, I worked a little off camera to center in on an almost fish-like creature with insect legs. The main superstructure of the creature looks very shark-like with a powerful muscular core. I did a few different variations, one with a marlin-esque spiked nose. An important thing in not just Spore, but all of art is time management. Don't over-render. Not all creatures are extremely busy or complex. Not only that, but Spore again is a tool that you should be using to make quick 3D mockups. If you have the time, have fun, add as many pieces as possible. But for concept art's sake, the faster the better. Sometimes it's just best to leave parts off, not only for time, but for believability as well. Here's the first sketch of the creature. I'm adding things not in spore to the initial design, trying to figure out its basic shape and other details like spines and weird tentacles. Here's some sketch pages. This is a really fun part of concepting, just throwing ideas at the wall and seeing what sticks. Not all of them even have to be drawing related. This is where you come up with the ideas that make your creature believable, beyond just the visual aspects. Where it lives, how it interacts with others of its own kind, or even separate species. Just interesting bits of information to help flesh out your overall idea. This is the first hardline render. Again, you can tell how quickly the renders start to change as I'm working. I was already not fully satisfied with this initial concept. It felt a little too boring and friendly. I did though like the salmon type face and carried that into further designs. On this page, I was trying to move into something more streamlined and less detailed. Like I said before, a lot of real world animals are not busy looking. Here I was also trying to think about the sliding scale between aquatic and insectoid, trying to lead more towards a streamlined bug feel. This is a good example how sometimes your initial render just doesn't work out. Sometimes it takes quite a few renders to get to a good initial concept, one that you're happy with and you want to push further. Out of all these early renders, I ended up choosing a shark-like design to try and flesh out with some colors. Here while I was coloring, I was trying to think about a more aquatic-friendly color scheme as I worked. I wanted it to look like it belonged in a swamp or slimy setting. Darker, murkier blues and grays contrasted by some alien pinks. You can also see me mess around with some different color schemes for the bones, using different things like off-whites and yellows. So here's some more finished renders of my first pass of the creature. You can see this one's almost amphibian-like in nature, definitely slid the scale back more towards the aquatic side, leaving only a few insect-like parts remaining, one of them being a stranger, more alien-like compound eye. It almost ended up looking like a cross between a shark or something like a poison dart frog. I definitely like the overall sleek shape for the initial design, like it could pounce on its prey quickly with its powerful large mouth and drag it back into the water. This is where the design really took a turn for the better in my opinion. I leaned much deeper into the insect camp, completely redesigning the head and making the eyes less friendly and more bug-like. I lost a lot of the sharper body parts as well, things like the tail spines and backplating to make it seem more aquatic and less hampered by things that could weigh it down while it was in the water or hunting its prey. Here you can see I also started adding familiar textures and colors to help bring the cohesion from our earlier avian design to this new creature. It can be as simple as similar eyes or reoccurring shapes. In this instance, I'm using the jelly-like coating on top of our new creature's head. I want this jelly coating to be a reoccurring evolutionary theme on our alien planet. Like a majority of the creatures tend to be filled with some type of gas for buoyancy, displays, and other interesting reasons. Here I took time to flesh out some details about our creature and its life cycle. Like I said, I envisioned it to live in and around swampy pools, attacking its prey and dragging it into the water. Here is the beginning of its life cycle. I thought it could lay egg sacs at the bottom of these pools, where they sat submerged until multiple young would hatch. These are some different ideas for the egg sacs. I was inspired by things like kelp and octopus eggs. And lastly, here's some different life stages for both designs. Probably because of Pokemon, but I've always liked to think about what my creature starts as and turns into, usually taking time to draw creatures young and more mature states. To add some more exploration to the life states of your creature, a lot of times an additional fun design exercise is designing those different life stages in-game. Going backward and forward in the life cycle of your creature to try to flush out where your creature came from or where it's headed evolutionarily is always super fun. That leads me into 3D design programs. If you really like your design, you can use modern 3D tools to really push your design and make it a finished render. I briefly touched on this in my other videos, but now with modern technology, Spore coupled with readily available and easy to use 3D programs makes it capable of doing some truly awesome things. Recently, I've been messing around in Blender and ZBrush with my Spore models. Being able to manipulate them as well as render them in true HD is awesome. Here's a size chart I'll keep adding to as we progress into the series. So here's the final design for our creature. Like I said prior, this episode was a good way of showing how a concept evolves as we work. Like I've said before, half the enjoyment of concepting is watching your design work itself out in front of you in real time. Hey guys, what's up? This is Ian again. I just want to say thanks so much for watching. Hopefully you got to the end of the video. If you have any ideas for some upcoming creatures or some designs, please feel free to leave a comment. If you're new to my channel and you like concept art, video games, stuff like that, please feel free to subscribe. I have a lot of stuff upcoming, and yeah, again, just want to say thanks so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. I'll be here drawing, hanging out, and I'll be sure to see you in the next one. Thanks again so much, guys. See ya.